Hey, welcome back to another episode of What's the Tea with Tim. I'm your host, Tim, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Grab your mug, get comfy, and let's dive right in because we have some hot tea to sip on. This is The Steep. This is where we kick things off and get into the heart of today's episode. Today, we're talking about something that touches all of us: grief. It's a tough topic, but one that is necessary, and we will discuss openly today. Our guest for today's episode is Abani Rollins, and she is here to share her journey through loss and how her and her family have found ways to cope, grow, and keep moving forward with the loss of her father. We'll laugh, we'll reflect, we may cry, and we'll dig deep into what grief really looks like in the everyday and how to keep living even when the weight of loss feels so heavy. So pour yourselves a cup, settle in, and let's get into it. Let's sip some real tea on grief, healing, and the beautiful mess of it all. Again, welcome back to What's the Tea with Tim. I'm excited to introduce today's guest, someone who truly embodies joy, resilience, and a whole lot of style. Welcome, Abani Rollins, an attorney by day, a coffee-loving reality TV aficionado by night. When she's not handling business in the courtroom, you'll find her exploring the vibrant streets of New York City or hosting unforgettable gatherings as the hostess with the mostest with amazing dinner party. A proud Miamian, Abani brings her sunshine, sass, and so much heart to everything she does. She's passionate about her faith, family, and making every moment count. Today, she's opening up about the deeply personal loss of her dad, a chapter in her life, and how she's navigated grief with grace and strength. This conversation is one of love, healing, and light, and finding light even in the hardest of times. Abani's story is a testament to living a life that honors those we've lost while continuing to embrace the beauty that is around us. Abani, welcome to What's the Tea with Tim. How are you today?
Greetings. It is such a pleasure. I am doing well. How are you? Thanks for the beautiful intro.
Of course, my friends, you all come on the show. I just want to make sure I do a good job of introducing y'all to our audience and just show y'all in the best lights. I'm curious to know what fills your mug these days, meaning what brings you joy?
Well, I'm drinking wine, but this makes me excited sometimes. But what brings me joy? These days, let's see. I'm on my little workout tip, right? And so when I commit to the gym 5 days out the week, well, 5 workouts out the week, that makes me happy. Let's see. There's also the little things like a good cup of joe, or
Yes.
when the train isn't crowded and I get the chance to sit down. So yeah, stuff like that.
You mentioned coffee, or a cup of joe. You mentioned in your bio that you are a reality TV aficionado. I also think you're a coffee aficionado. You love a good
I
coffee.
do. I do. We start the day with water first, people, and then a nice latte that I make at
Nice.
home.
Okay, yes, because we are saving our coin when it comes to
Of
coffee.
course,
Okay,
saving coins, being self-sufficient. Yeah.
yes. I'm curious to know though, what is your favorite coffee shop in New York City, or do you have a favorite coffee shop in New
Um, I don't have one yet. I
York?
don't
Okay,
I don't have one yet. Maybe like it'll be next year's to do to explore some more coffee shops. Like when I'm out and about, I might just pick like a random one to go to, but it's like no
okay,
intentionality on my part.
okay, cool. Well, for our audience, Abby and I have known each other since 2011, our freshman year of high school. So
Yep.
that's similar to or at least Lawan in our last episode, almost 13 years of friendship, correct? And is my
Yeah.
math right here?
And you and Kiera, y'all had since 2011 too. We almost high school together.
I know, crazy how time flies, and we're off living in different cities. You're in New York, living out your attorney dreams. How are you liking life in the Big Apple, and how does it compare to once living in South Florida?
Life in the Big Apple is a very unique experience. I like the fact that there is always something to do, like there's always some socializing going on. There's always restaurants open to try, and maybe we need to add to my bio that I'm a foodie as well. So I like that. It's a very unique experience. Like there's some inconveniences that as Floridians we had the luxury, right, of like going to the store in a car, right? So here in New York, I'm if I want to return a package, I gotta like haul the package with me or take a ride share and stuff. But That's very like small, like in the grand scheme of things. So I'll say I'm enjoying it.
Nice, nice. I have not been to New York yet,
Come
so I'm
visit, man.
excited to
I've been
be.
here for a while. We waiting on you.
I know it's a couple of my friends that I are living in different cities and I need to
Yeah.
come and visit. So New York is definitely on my list. I'm coming in 2025. I need to see the
Okay.
Big Apple,
Okay.
see my amazing friend, the Statue of Liberty, do all the New York
Okay.
tourism
Yeah.
things, and see a show on Broadway too. That's
Yeah.
another thing to do.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Met?
I did. Yes, yes, yes. I've been once for an exhibit and it was really nice, super crowded. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Again, I can't wait to visit New York City. So, Albany, as you know, we are here to talk about grief and just, this time of year can bring up a lot of feelings for people in this world. How long has it been since you've lost your dad? And what has life been like since he's no longer with us?
Yes. So my dad passed away in April of 2023. So we're approaching almost 2 years soon, in like a couple months. What has life been like? Life has been like a huge transition. When he passed away, like I was literally just a few days shy of graduating law school. I had to study for the bar, which I passed on my first time, praise the Lord. I moved here to New York. I've been working
Hmm.
for almost a year now. So it's just been a life like full of transition. I've kept myself very busy and yeah, it feels like he's on an extended vacation.
Mm.
Yeah.
And again, Avani, thank you for just being open to sharing about just such a vulnerable topic for you. I remember, I think you were in Africa at the time,
Yeah.
when you got the phone call that he was back in the United States. Can you tell our audience like what you were doing in Africa at the time, and what was your initial reaction when you got the call or the message that your dad has now transitioned on to heaven?
I was in my last semester of law school and I decided to extern abroad. And so I was in Cape Town working at a refugee rights clinic at the university. But during like those like exact moments, like that day, I was off in what they call the bush on a safari chasing
Mm,
elephants and lions, like looking at wild
wow.
animals. And you asked about that exact moment. My mom texted me and she said, "Oh, like something happened to your dad." And like instantly, I was just like, "Uh-oh." Because what's really weird is well, Tim, you remember, like, I've always wanted to like go abroad. Once upon a time, I want to be like an international attorney. And one
Yeah.
hesitation I had when I was in law school and I was like, "Oh, like I want to go spend a semester abroad." I was just like, "Oh, wait, like I would hate for something to happen to like a family member." And so it's pretty like odd that something actually did. But
Hmm.
in that exact moment, like when I got the news, like my heart literally like dropped. And my instant reflex though was to be like concerned about my mom and making sure that somebody like was with her, she was situated and stuff like cuz I don't know, that's just the me in me like to think about somebody else like first.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that. I can see how those fears of being in a foreign country and working towards your goals and dreams and then getting that message. How would you say, or how did you process receiving such life-changing news while being so far from home?
I processed it. The answer is like I just do what I have to do to get home, honestly.
Hmm.
Like I just again, like I was a good 6 hours away from the nearest airport.
Wow.
Because again, we were in the bush. And so I coordinated with the safari people I was with, and they got me on the next like van out to the airport. One of my best friends, like she helped coordinate for me to switch my flight for the next day to make it back to the United States. So yeah, like I just did what I had to do to make it back home. My dad was a very like dynamic individual. And
Hmm.
one of the many things that he instilled in like my siblings and I is you just need to get things done. Right. And so in that moment, I'm just like, all right, like I need to tighten up. Like I need to get things done. And that is like I need to make it home.
You always, or at least from what I've known of you and still to this day, you always speak so highly of your dad. And I think that he treated you like a princess, like
And
someone who
that's how
is
I feel.
royalty. Yeah. Someone who is royalty and should be cherished. And I can see how your dad has really impacted you in your life. And I see it every day and it just shows in who you are as a person. So just know that like he is still with you
Thank
always
Yes,
in every moment of your life. And
for
he has
sure.
not left you at all.
Yeah, for sure.
So holidays can be bittersweet, especially when we've lost someone close, and the holiday season is now upon us. How have the holidays changed for you or your family since you've lost your dad? Do Thanksgiving or Christmas feel or family gatherings bring up certain feelings more than others?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, right? Because after I graduated high school, I went away to college and I went to law school and stuff. And so like I haven't actually like lived at home since 2015. But of course, like I would go home for the holidays. It's not the exact scenario like I wasn't every single day contact like with my dad. Like he wasn't like that. So that's why I say like sometimes it feels like he's on an extended vacation because it's not like abnormal for us to not go like a month or two or something like that without
Mm,
speaking, right?
yeah.
Uh, and that for the people for the viewers, that's not because he did not care. It's a scenario. I would talk to my mom every other day, and so if he needed to know something, she would tell him. But for the holidays specifically, last holiday season was our first, and I think we managed pretty well for yeah, like pretty well kinda. I will say like I think that it's also like this big elephant in the room to where it's just like, oh, like
Mm,
he's not here. But I think that I know for myself, like I refrain from it being like a topic of conversation because like I don't want to cry or like get my mom emotional and stuff like that, or like the boys. So it's just like we just know like there's
yeah.
an absence.
Right. How would you describe your dad if you had to share, if you had to describe him in 3 words or a couple words? What to our viewers? What would you say to him that describes his personality and what he brought to this world?
Oh wow. Honestly, Tim, I'm trying not to cry, so I bought a fan to
It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It is okay to cry. I may cry too.
okay, get together. I would describe him as well, you asked for 3 words, one of one. Um, literally that. He was a person of great faith and integrity.
Hmm.
He was very charismatic. Like he was like a really like smooth guy who had a way with words. He was very faithful to his family, church, God, his friends, like everything that he cared about, he was faithful. And let's see, what's one other thing? And one thing that I admire most about my dad, and I guess like it ties into faithfulness too, is like he was a super consistent person. And I think that's a big trait I get from him to where it's just like I'm consistent about things. And so yeah, that's like how I would describe him. He was a lot of fun.
I heard you say he is one of one, great person of faith, has integrity, valued family, and a super consistent person. And I just want you to realize that all of those things you described, like you also embody. If you haven't realized it already, like you encourage me to be consistent with content and podcasting and just everything that I put my mind to follow through. So I just appreciate you for what you bring to my life. And I can
Thank
see
you,
how,
friend.
of course, and I could just see how your dad has just impacted you. Going back to one of one, when you think of your father as one of one, what's a moment or habit of his that you find yourself appreciating or even illuminating as you appreciate in your own life?
Let us see. I think about how if it had not been like, for one, like for many people, right? My mother included, because she was
Hmm.
very monumental in my life as well. But I think about how if it had not like been for him and like his investment in me, I don't know if I would be like a practicing attorney here
Mm,
right now. And
wow.
yeah, to expand on that a little, I'm one of those people who always said like I want to be a lawyer. minus maybe up until I was like 5 when I had aspirations of being a veterinarian. But post that, it was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer.
Mhm.
And so I recall like when I was in college, I'm just chatting saying like, yeah, like I'm gonna be a lawyer. But I had no clue of how to make that happen outside of like I need to take the LSAT, but I'm just like the actual steps and process, like I wasn't in the know about. He would sit there and like actually do research for me, kind of like voluntarily, and like put me on game, right? Of like, hey,
Wow.
this is a good LSAT program. Like, I'm going to get it for you. This is who you need to connect with. This is who can help you with your recommendations. These are the
Mhm.
essays that you should look at to help you with your applications and stuff. Just his initiative and like his forethought on my behalf. I'm here.
Wow. I wish or he's still with you, but I wish he was here to see the woman that you are today, and I'm certain he is
Oh,
so, so,
Tim,
so proud of just who you have become. I'm probably making you cry over there. I'm not intentionally trying to make you cry, but
I'm gonna be
I
good. Be good.
understand that those
Thank you.
emotions can come. So if it does, please let it out. Going back to the holidays, I just think about my personal story losing my grandmother, which is my mom's mom. And
Yeah.
she was really the rock of my family. And there would be Thanksgivings, Christmas, holiday, birthdays. My probably first or second birthday was over there. But when she passed away, it kind of became like the dissolution of the family. Now we've gotten somewhat back together.
Yeah. It's
But
like
back
you know,
in
all
those
cousins and
days,
stuff like that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So like those were more so like the good old days where like everybody would be
Hmm.
together, and like when you lose those core people in your life, those memories just kind of the memories are still there, but like the gatherings just don't happen as often. Seasons of life, but at the end of the day, we still carry the love that our loved ones have for us in our everyday life. I'm curious to know, grief is one of the hardest things that we go through in life, and sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to either move on or get over it. Have you had those feelings? If you did, how have you learned to give yourself grace when those feelings come back and you think about your dad?
I don't think that there's no like moving on. So to answer your initial question, no, no, because
Mhm.
I acknowledge like there's no like moving on or whatever. It's just for me, it's a I need to keep going. And
Mm.
yeah, I think like in my everyday life, like I give me grace like in a variety of aspects. But also when he initially like passed, like I didn't have the luxury of
Yeah,
really just pausing for real. Cause again, like I had to study for the bar.
right.
So that was a moment in times where it's just like if there was grace to show myself, I was not because I had tunnel vision.
Mhm. Do you ever feel like, because you mentioned you didn't have the luxury of pausing, so do you feel like sometimes you need that moment to pause, or is it still something that you're working through?
I had a time period like after I took the bar, like when I finished studying and before I started working, to where I call it my extended vacation, to where I
Yeah.
just got the opportunity to sit. And so whatever graciousness or like period of internal conversation that needed to occur, like it took place then. But these days, and maybe it's because like I'm particularly like busy, I feel like I'm doing relatively okay in regards to my grief. But then also like I do acknowledge, it's not linear as you say, like it has its ebbs and flows. And so right
Yeah.
now, like I'm doing all right. But just a couple months ago, I was like, I was down bad for a variety of reasons, but his passing, like it added to. But
Mm.
like there just might be moments in my life where I'm just like, dang, like I wish you were around. But I always do, but it's just for the time being, I'm like at peace.
Yeah. You mentioned the ebbs and flows and eventually, or as we go through life, finding that peace. What is the hardest part for anybody managing grief, and how have you yourself, chosen to overcome it?
I think I would say managing, or how do I phrase this? I find that a lot like people would make comments to me about catering to other people's feelings in regards to his
Mm.
like the loss of him, but it's just like at one point in time, like I did not have the capacity to do that. And in fact, like I still don't. Like when it comes to like a loss, it's just that like like the only person like whose feelings I really have it in me to cater to for real is like my own. And so I would say like that's the hardest part. And like people would make these comments to me like not with like ill intent or just a scenario that I just didn't know what to say. And so yeah, I would say that's the hardest part. And also maybe just a scenario of like I might just be walking around. Sometimes I might just start like crying, you know? And it's just like a little awkward thing to where it's just like, oh, like I don't want to be crying in front of random people on the train. Like, so that might be hard, like controlling my emotions when it's just like a floodgate sometime. So those two things.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Do you ever have moments where, let's say, again, you're in New York City, you might be taking the train or just going about your daily life and going to work? Do you have moments, or has there ever been a moment for you where it felt like your dad was with you? If so, what did that feel like and what did that look like?
I'm going to say no because I don't again, like, it feels like he's on extended vacation at this point in time in my life. And so if there was a feeling to where it's just like I felt like a burst of cool air or something like that, like, no. But I know that, like, I carry him with me every single day, and I also like his prayers for me are still at work, like, in practice, like, they're occurring right now as we speak, but yeah.
Okay. And like you mentioned, you carry him with you every day. So
Mhm.
those big lawyer rooms that you're stepping in, he's there with you, encouraging you, rooting you along the way. And it sounds as though like you've really been focused on prioritizing your own needs during this time since the loss of your dad, which is completely understandable. How do you navigate those comments from others that don't align with where you are emotionally, and how do you navigate that?
I just ignore them. Honestly, I'll just be like, "Yeah, we're alright." Like, sometimes I just be in agreeance just for the sake of, like, not furthering the conversation. Because if I do and I, object or whatever, then it's, "Ah, but he's being rude," and it's just like so I just ignore, honestly.
Yeah. You can't give everybody your energy, your capacity. And at the end of the day, you got to protect your peace. That's what I'm feel like I'm learning.
Honestly, and again, like I said, like, people don't know, like, they just be chatting, so
Again, the holidays are here, Christmas is around the corner. How do you plan on, if there is any plans, to honor your dad while still enjoying the holidays and remain in the
for the holidays specifically, we might go out to the cemetery or something, but I think that, like, that's as far as it'll go for the time being. I think it's still fresh, right? And so maybe as, like, time progresses, like, it'll be an easier thing to do, like, honor him in some capacity. But then
yeah.
again, also, like, I feel like we all honor him, like, every single day, just existing and keep it on going, to be honest.
And that's the best thing you can do as terms of being consistent as your dad, has
Yeah,
shown to be. It's
like,
just
just keep on pushing.
exactly, As a lawyer, you're trained to deal with or approach topics with a logical reasoning.
Mhm.
Do you think that that mindset has influenced how you process grief, especially when it comes to not feeling a spiritual presence?
No, I like I keep my, I separate my 2 personalities, like like the logical,
You're very good at separating your emotions, Albany, and I appreciate
yeah,
that.
like my, attorney side to me and, like, also, like, the emotional part or whatever. So, no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And that's perfectly fine.
yeah.
To those that are experiencing grief or have lost a loved one, especially either during this time of year or just in life, what advice would you offer to those individuals?
Well, for one, like, I do believe that there is eternity that we could look forward to after we pass. And I believe that God will accept my dad into heaven's gates, and I as well will be accepted. That's what I'm working towards. And
Amen.
so, from a spiritual aspect, I would say, like, hey, like, you're going to see them again. And also, like, the Bible tells us life is but a vapor. These are all but moments in time, to be honest. So, you just have to, well, I don't want to use the word push through because that's what I do, but you'll see
Mhm.
them again. But also, aside from like the spirituality aspect of it all, I would say very much like lean into your community when I might be having like my moments of just, I wouldn't describe it like as defeat, but like intense sadness, I'll call a friend. I'll call Tim or
You
like,
do call me.
yeah, or like my other besties, right? I may not necessarily be talking about him or like the emotions that like I'm feeling in that moment, but I really have great friends. And no matter the topic, you all end up speaking life into me regardless.
Hmm.
So yeah, lean on your community. Find a hobby if you don't already have one. And then also like just let yourself cry sometimes. You have to allow yourself to feel those emotions. Don't with it's gonna come out at some point. So it's just like if you need to cry, just cry. I be crying on a train sometimes.
You have shared some really good advice. I really appreciate our friendship because we do have that capability to speak life into each other, and I feel like we've been each other in each other's lives for so long, and will continue to do so. So I think it's important to really lean into your community, like you mentioned, and how you said it's okay to cry. I feel like sometimes as Black people, we hold things in and we just don't express our emotions, and it's important to let it out. I've cried more in my life in the past 6 months than I've had to cry before, but it's important to really let those emotions out. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, also like I will say that grief is not uncommon.
Hmm.
Everybody experiences it at like some point, right? And everybody everybody knows somebody who has had a parent or somebody close to them pass away. Whether, like, for example, Tim, you said, like, your mom's mom passed away. And I guess, like, I didn't place it into perspective after, like, having experienced it because in the initial, like, moments, like, of time, I'm wondering to myself, like, how is it do I continue through? Whew, okay. Like, how, how is it, what is life going to look like? Right. And okay, so I'll be wondering like,
It's okay.
yo, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I'll be wondering like, what is life gonna look like, right?
Hmm.
But now having like gotten past like those initial like moments and stuff, I have had the opportunity to observe other people or think about other people. Like for example, like my dad and like my mom, to where they have buried like a parent or parents and they were still able to enjoy life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind where it's just like you could still enjoy life. You could still have fun. You could still make plans, right? In the past, like almost 2 years, like I've definitely smiled and laughed more than like I've cried or been sitting in sorrow, to be honest. So yeah.
Abani, you are such a pure heart.
Oh, thank you.
I'm thankful to have you in my life. You are a beacon of light in my life, and I can see your dad just in you every single day. And of course, God lives in you as well. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that grief can take many forms. It could be grief of a loss of a loved one, it could be grief of a job, grief
Yeah.
of financial grief. So it's like really taking those moments to recenter, know that you are loved. There are people that are around you and support you every single day. And ultimately, it's important to, like you mentioned, continue to make those plans, continue to experience life because we're only here for a short amount of time. Tomorrow is unfortunately not promised. So making the most out of each day.
Also, I think like it's really important to acknowledge like what something like a death of like a close loved one is. And for me at least, I describe it as a traumatic experience. And recognizing and acknowledging that has helped me tremendously, to be honest. Just not like discounting what that moment or just the impact means for my life. And yeah, like it was traumatic, honestly.
It's so tough to just lose somebody that's so close to you, especially a parental figure. I've only experienced loss of grandparents.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't yet experienced loss of a parent, and I can't even imagine what my mind is going to go through. So again, Albany, you have been so strong. You are so loved. I'm excited to see what the future looks like for you. I've seen you blossom into the woman that you are today. I'm
Yeah.
honored to
We
be
reached
your
a sweet
friend.
13.
I'm so honored to be your friend, and I'm excited for what's next for both of us.
Thank you.
And your dad is a no nonsense type of guy,
On purse
grandma,
here. It's real strict.
period. From your dating life, I've seen you cut some guys out because they aren't meeting those standards. So,
Exactly.
but Albany, again, I appreciate you for coming on the show. Thank you for coming on What's the Tea with Tim. Before we close out, I want to take a moment to just reflect. Grief doesn't have a timeline. Whether it's been 6 months or 6 years, it can feel fresh, especially when you're reminded of those special times when you shared with loved ones. It's okay to grieve. Grief is a testament to the love that we carry, and sometimes we just need a moment to sit with it, even when it's uncomfortable.
Definitely.
Abani, thank you so much for coming on What's the Tea with Tim. You are so loved. I love you. Thank you for being an amazing friend. And we're going to take a sip on that one.
What's in your
Cheers.
cup?
Oh, I got a little, nice little white wine in here.
Okay.
And now this is the last drop. This is where we wrap up and take a final reflection on today's conversation. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of What's the Tea with Tim. I want to send a thank you to Abani for opening up and sharing her story with us. It's not easy talking about grief, but today's discussion really showed how important it is to be honest, raw, and real with ourselves and the people we love. If you're out there and listening and going through a journey of loss or hardship, remember, grief doesn't have to be something you go through alone. Reach out, talk it out, and know that healing takes time. You're not alone in this, and there's always a community ready to support you, just like we did here today. Thanks for sipping some tea with us, besties. I hope today's conversation gave you some comfort, a little bit of light, and maybe even a new perspective. Until next time, keep the tea flowing and take care of yourselves. As always, make sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, leave a review or comment below. I'd love hearing from y'all, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Until next time, I'm Tim signing off with your final sip of tea.